unpacking today's headlines. This is Souls and Liberty in Depth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Depth, the production of Souls and Liberty, brought to you in partnership with MyPillow.com. As America begins making a hard right turn, thank God, now is the time to start getting the theology and philosophy correct. Why? Well, because it underlies everything we do as a nation, beginning with our worldview. It's the basis for our laws, our common sense decisions on what's right and wrong, who we elect, how our children are raised, the sanctity of marriage, everything. Since roughly 70% of Americans claim Christianity as their religion, we need to start there because so many people claim to live their lives as followers of Christ. There are in America approximately 180 million Protestants scattered over roughly 40,000 denominations. Then there are about 70 million Catholics. Protestants rely heavily on just the Bible, sola scriptura, sacred scriptures, as the source of their belief and teachings, while Catholics lean on church teaching, which incorporates both scripture and tradition. While there's a lot of crossover and overlap, both of these ways of experiencing Christianity cannot be valid on their own. Protestants and Catholics both honor and respect and follow sacred scripture, but only Catholics adhere also to tradition. So there's a disconnect here with regard to the Bible, sacred scripture. Protestantism incorrectly believes that everything is contained in the Bible. Catholicism has never taught that, and the church has never accepted that because it doesn't make sense. The Bible, the canon, a word meaning list of books, the canon of Scripture in the Bible, was not fully and completely settled until the beginning of the 5th century. There was no such thing as a Bible until the year 405, when the canon was declared by Pope Damasus I at the Council of Rome. When you stop then and consider all the truths of Christianity that were already in place before there was a Bible, it's ridiculous to think the Bible is the end-all, be-all. The incarnate Son of God, the eternal Logos, established a church, not a book. That book, or rather 73 books, flowed from the church as nothing more than the written down portion of the oral tradition, which had been preached orally by first the apostles and then their followers and their successors and their successors and their successors for 2,000 years. This is how it went for nearly 400 years. That 400 years, that's 400 years. If you're keeping score at home, this means the apostles never saw a Bible. All those martyrs in the Colosseum never saw a Bible. There was no such thing as a Bible. For example, during the Jewish and then Roman persecutions, which took place during the first 300 years or so of the church, there were all sorts of heresies. Chief among them, being Jesus Christ, was not divine. That one was called Arianism, named after a priest, Arius. It was dominant throughout the Mediterranean world and was so dominant that just a few years after the persecutions by the Romans ended, a council had to be called in Nicaea to address it. That was in 325 AD. There was no settled canon of Scripture. This is very important. There was no settled canon of Scripture, the Bible, for another 80 years. So without the Bible to appeal to, how was the question of the divinity of Jesus settled? By the oral tradition of the church, from what the apostles had taught and passed down to their successors, and so on. The first of their successors, known as the Apostolic Fathers, because it's the apostles and then immediately their successors who are fathers of the church. So it's the Apostolic Fathers. It's the first generation after the apostles have died. Those who heard from the mouths of the apostles themselves. That's who these Apostolic Fathers are. And they became the apostles' followers. These first fathers of the church carried on the teachings of the apostles about the divinity of Christ. That Protestants believe today that Jesus is the Son of God does not come from the Bible. Likewise, that Protestants today believe in the Holy Trinity does not come from the Bible. Those beliefs come from the oral tradition of the church, some of which made it into the Bible. But you won't find the word Trinity, for example, in the Bible. It's not there. Why does all this matter beyond just theological reasons and discussions? Because 1,600 years later, here in America, Protestants make many of their political and cultural choices based on the Bible. You hear it all the time. So pump the brakes. How are Protestants, and many poorly taught Catholics, basing their views of society on the Bible when they have an incorrect understanding of the Bible? Now, for the moment, we're going to leave that discussion here. We're going to return to it here in the next few days. But we're going to come back to it, as we said, because the entire people's revolution can very well rise and or fall on getting the Bible and Christianity right. Okay, now turning to today's topic, look at what's to come for the next 2 years, at least. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And it came in the form, the little preview, the crystal ball of this, came in the form of a spending bill, an omnibus bill, that the Uniparty wanted to push through at the last minute. It all started with this post on X from Elon. Here's what he said. Look at this picture. He said, "Ever seen a bigger piece of pork?" Now, note the time that he posted this, 4:14 in the morning last Wednesday, and 30 million views. Now, that set off a typhoon of calls and emails and social media posts from millions of Americans to their congressmen saying, "You better not vote for that." And it worked, sort of. Here's J.D. Vance speaking to the garbage of the Uniparty tactics.
Mr. Vance, will you accept any deal that does not include a debt limit increase?
Look, I'll say one thing. The Democrats just voted to shut down the government, even though we had a clean CR, because they didn't want to give the president negotiating leverage during his first term, or during the first year of his new term. And number two, because they would rather shut down the government and fight for global censorship bullshit. They've asked for a shutdown, and I think that's exactly what they're going to get.
38 Republicans voted against it as well. What's the path forward, Mr. Vance?
Come on, guys.
What will be your policy in Syria?
Are you meeting with Speaker Johnson tonight to regroup?
We had a little debate whether we should leave that sort of rough language in, but said, yeah, you know what? He's the vice president, are going to be very shortly, and it's right. Join me now to look into the crystal ball moving forward is fellow Souls and Liberty contributor Stephen Wynn. Stephen, welcome again, as usual. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Thank you very much.
All right. I got to say, as we look at some of the stuff that there were so many, and we're starting with the first bill. There were three. The first one got yanked. The second one tried to replace it. That got voted down. And then there was the third one. But we're going to start here, just kind of take these things in order. That first bill had all kinds of woke language in it. They changed the word offender to a justice-involved individual. They changed the word homeless to unhoused. I mean, those are true, but it's just that woke garbage crap. I want you to listen for a moment, and then we're going to start talking about this. Listen to Vermont Representative Becca Balan talking about Elon.
I was literally moments ago in an elevator with some Republican members who are fuming about the fact that Musk is inserting himself into this conversation, and that the threats over Twitter, X, the threats over X, to primary them, to come after them, so privately at least, they've had it. They've had it with people like Musk who think that they have the right to insert themselves into a process of elected officials. We've all been elected to represent our constituents, to try to represent them. He is not elected. I just want to remind everybody of that. He may be a very wealthy person, but he's been elected to nothing.
Yeah, you can see sort of where their tactics were going to start going immediately. It's like, President Elon and all that stuff. But a very good guy on the internet, Stephen, Hans Machny, I'm sure I'm saying his name right. He made a comment here. We're going to read his comment, and then I want you to take it up with who he's talking about. Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy and Virginia Senator Mark Warner, both losers and kill children and all that sort of stuff. Take your money, rob you blind, stab you in the back, and then tell you how patriotic they are. But first, here's what Hans had to say. Let's look at this. He says, they're putting out the same sob stories about how heartless it is for billionaires to pursue budget cuts while ordinary people suffer. But it's no longer working. Everyone sees right through the charade, and that is truly wonderful. November 5th was a huge inflection point. Certainly was. Stephen, here's what he was talking about. Why don't you take over?
All right, very good. Yes. Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut, Democrat from Connecticut, he said this. He took this to X saying, quote, "Why do the billionaires, Musk, Ramaswamy, Trump, want to shut down the government for Christmas? Because they still get paid. It's our troops, TSA agents, and other federal workers who won't get paid. It's their kids who will suffer this Christmas." Just a blatant, stupid display there, but that is so typical of the Democratic Party. It's unbelievable. Yeah. He was accompanied by fellow Senator Mark Warner from Virginia, again, another Democrat, who said this: "Hard to imagine anything more heartless than shutting down the government and leaving disaster victims out in the cold just days before Christmas. Absolutely outrageous. This is even a possibility." I tell you what's absolutely outrageous is the fact that these Democrats have done nothing to help those people in North Carolina and elsewhere in the country.
That hurricane was in September.
Exactly. Months ago. And now they're concerned about it's so transparent. The hypocrisy, it's just the political BS. And again, more and more people are seeing through it because we now have X. We now have a free speech platform through which we can vent our views, our voices, and so forth.
You know what's interesting on the disaster relief? There's a few different angles just on this one point. That is so deceptive. First of all, before they were going to pass that, there was since the time of the hurricane until now they make the disaster relief payment, they have sent more than $200 billion to Ukraine, or provided $200 billion in payments for weapons and all that sort of stuff. The second thing is you say, oh, well, let's send $100 billion to all these people, suffering in North Carolina. And well, okay, that sounds lovely, but that's not how the money is apportioned. If you go, it's under the heading of disaster relief. But if you go down into the guts of the bill, the details, where God and the devil live, if you go down there, it's $60 billion over here for doing, site surveys, and $30 billion over here for doing, readiness preparation tests, and on and on and on. It's like, where do the people get the money so they can eat? Where is that allotment? Where is the bring these big giant bulldozers in and pay for these, just move stuff over, build new houses? Where's all that? That's not outlined in the bill anywhere. It's, 20 billion here, 15 billion there. You got to make sure, let's do a readiness test over here. Let's do a site and geological survey there. And it's like, I mean, sure, you're pouring money into the region, but it's not getting to the people who need it, which is, of course, typical A, congressional form, and B, certainly Democratic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's basically most of that is ultimately just devoured by the bureaucracy. It's amazing how quickly and how completely our tax dollars can vanish when you feed it into the government, return it to the government. Same thing is true with a lot of the migrants who are coming into this country. There was a political representative who basically did the math, and he found out that for every migrant being admitted into this country, we are spending umpteen thousands of dollars to house them, to give them, phones, whatever, feed them, clothe them, etc. And, again, I think a lot of that is just going back into the bureaucracy. But even, that which isn't, and perhaps, the money that's being directly spent on housing and so forth, that, that's thousands of dollars. That's far more than any citizen of the United States living in North Korea. Yeah, almost.
Yeah,
North
almost.
Carolina, rather. North Carolina and elsewhere in the hurricane ravaged areas. That's far more than they've been getting. So it's just disgusting, this display.
I've never been handed money from the government for anything.
Right.
Ever.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm a citizen.
Right.
I've handed plenty of money over, but I've never actually gotten like, oh, here, we like you here. No. Oh, we feel sorry for you here.
Yeah, exactly. It's
disastrous.
unconscionable,
So
really.
One of the big thing
I'd like to bring up, for our viewers, I want to remind them just how bad this original bill was.
Yeah.
Its near passage really underscores the question of whether many congressional Republicans are merely amateurs, just inept at politics, or whether they're actually malicious actors, gaslighting voters into believing that they're true agents of change just because they identify as Republicans. Now, so as bad as the pork barrel projects were, and there were billions and billions of dollars that were going to be directed toward those, the original bill featured far worse, far more dangerous measures that would have really undermined the freedom, the liberty of the folks here in the U.S., American citizens.
I'm going to do a little math here, Stephen, while you're talking, a little arithmetic in my calculator, because there was a $70,000 raise, $69,600 raise, call it 70, for every single member of Congress. That's 435 reps and 100 senators. So I keep talking. I'm gonna do a little math here, and I'll barge in on you and tell you what 435 times $70,000 is.
Okay, very good. And I'll just refer to my notes while you're doing that. Some of the most egregious measures in this bill, there were provisions that would have attempted to shield congressional emails from outside scrutiny. Basically, congressmen and women could have engaged in all kinds of corruption and had that shielded because no outside source, no independent media or anyone could view those emails. That was a provision that was in the original bill.
They work for us.
Yes.
I mean, can you imagine an employee when his employer says, "Hey, I need to see your email"? Nope. Screw you. What?
Yeah. Yep.
By the way, the numbers
sense.
over $37 million. Now, in the grand spit of hundreds of billions of dollars, 37 million, but that's not the point. It's the principle of the thing. You have driven the country into unsustainable levels of debt, and you want a pay raise. I mean, I can do that. Hire me. How about I'll take a $30,000 pay raise? How's that? And and then I'll just go screw up every single thing about America I can possibly do.
Yep.
It's
absolutely, yeah.
It's crazy. One of the things about all of this was, they were going on about, oh gosh, the billionaires want to shut down the government and blah, 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 blah. And people didn't really care about that. Lots of Republicans on Capitol Hill were like, I don't give a crap. I mean, let it shut down. It's not working correctly. And one of those was Eric Burlinson. He's a Missouri congressman. Let's just listen to his bite real quickly here. It's just it's just very short. But he's being interviewed by, I believe it's Newsmax and or News Nation, and he's like, you're like, whoa, make him Speaker of the House. Roll it.
I'm okay to shut it down. Come back. Like when we shut it down, it's 85% of the federal government is still operational. We'll come back in January under a Republican Senate and a Republican House, and we can pass the appropriations the way that we want to with no excuses. So what I'm excited about is when we get back here in January, all these excuses about, oh, we had to do this because Chuck Schumer wanted it or Joe Biden wanted it, those all go away. And the American people are going to be able to shine a spotlight on the Republicans in the House and the Senate and make sure that we do our job.
All right. Yes, Stephen, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with, Congressman Burlinson. Normal people won't disagree with Congressman Burlin. They're just like, it doesn't work. Who cares if it shuts down? Every single terror doomsday tweet from everybody on the on the left. Oh my gosh, it's going to have catastrophic effects, and it's the end of the world. No, it isn't. Roughly 90% of the government continues functioning when there's a shutdown. And even when there is a shutdown, and some people might not get paid. When it starts back up again, those people get paid and they get their back pay for the stuff they missed. So this like, oh my gosh, it's a government shutdown. It's quite remarkable, really, when you think about the power of social media that isn't going away now. I mean, we're in a new era of, there were the newspapers, then there were the radio stations, and then there were the TV stations and the networks. And now there's this. And what's the old song? Video killed the radio star. Well, social media is killing, the legacy media. You pass through these things, and that they were pissed that Elon was able to throw a grenade into their party by simply making that original post we saw a few minutes ago and just saying, wow, look at this piece of pork. And
right.
It's really remarkable. And what the Democrats didn't really have an answer for is they had to start with their crazy, the thing that you'd, shown one of them saying, oh, it's catastrophic. Oh, it's the end of the world. Oh, end of America, existential threat to everything. I'm so sick of hearing existential threat. But a lot of the stuff, as you said, and I want to come back to this now, a lot of the stuff you said in that original one, the one we showed the picture of, almost 1,600 pages. I mean, I'm going to do the math on that too. You had to print up 1,600 pages for every member of Congress. How many trees is that, AOC?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'll do that. And it wasn't, they just didn't print up one for each one. They print up multiple ones because their staffs look at them and highlight them and this and that and everything else. But, let's say they print up 2. That's not even close to true. It's probably 10 to 12 for each congressman and each senator, but we'll say 2. But a lot of that stuff in those 1,600 pages was complete and straight up evil.
Oh, it is, absolutely. Yeah. For example, we've got there was a provision to finance the Global Exchange Commission. Now, this is a communist censorship agency, a program that was set up under Obama, and it's all about really snuffing out free speech at the end of the day. So all of this kind of stuff that we've been seeing with canceling people on the right, voices on the right, through depletion of advertising resources and so forth, it really sparks a lot of that. It facilitates a lot of that, and we were just gonna continue funding that. It's absurd.
And here's an interesting point on that. The funding was actually set to expire. It had outlived. That was it. It was done. It's like one of those rare government programs that actually didn't have any funding, and it was done. It was funded in the last Congress up through this year, and then it was done. So, everybody's going to let it expire, and all of a sudden, they do the Lazarus effect with it and bring it back to life. By the way, it's almost printing up just 2 copies, which is not how many there would have been. It's almost 2 million sheets of paper. 2 million sheets of paper. And of course, that's not how many of those cartridges and the printers have to, be changed, and how much ink did you go through, and what does that all cost? I don't know what 2 million sheets of paper costs, but it's just the standard. This is just how we do business. We waste. It's not my money, and that's the point. It's not their money, and so they don't have a concern about it.
Exactly. Yep. It's very easy to spend other people's money. That's what socialists are very good at, and that's what they.
As Maggie Thatcher said, the problem with socialism is, one day you run out of other people's money.
Yep, exactly. Yep. She was awesome. No one could slam a socialist like Thatcher. And the bill, it contained other provisions that were, 5 years after the COVID outbreak, that are just alarming. Basically, it cemented vaccine mandates, vaccine passports, and it would have expanded emergency powers of the government. I mean, what have we just seen here in the past few days? Governor Gavin Newsom out in California declaring an emergency, basically statewide emergency, because of the threat allegedly of bird flu. He's just setting that kind of thing up. Well, imagine if the government had all kinds of new powers to do that. It would have made the lockdowns of 2020 look like child's play. It's really alarming to think what that could have done.
Yeah, I mean, across the board, we're still making fun of you. Still see people walk around wearing masks. I'm like, what? What the hell is wrong with you? I mean, my father, my father who died before COVID, God rest his soul, would wear a mask. But first of all, he was 87 years old, and he was really wearing a mask to prevent himself from touching his face so he wouldn't get sick. He wasn't like walking around thinking, oh gosh, somebody 25 miles away there might sneeze and I'll get it and die. And that's the very old people wearing masks. Like I said, my father was wearing masks before he died in early 2018. Regular normal people walk around wearing masks. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You never saw this until COVID. And so now there's all this apology and excuse baiting, that person might have like leukemia. And, they just can't, well, why weren't people walking around wearing leukemia masks before that? Before COVID? It's a statement. 99% of the time, it's a political statement. And it needs to be treated as such. Look, we're not the only ones. You and I at Souls and Liberty here and others, who went off on all of this stuff. Jesse Waters on Fox News gave this like really great summation of all of this. It was like 6.5, maybe 7 minutes long. I don't want to, play the whole thing, but you pulled out this particular one little section here. It's about 1.5 minutes or so. And it's a really good summary. Doesn't cover everything, but it certainly hits the right notes to the point that we're going to show you. So take a listen.
They tried to write into law that no one's allowed to look at Congress's emails. So if I get a subpoena, you get a subpoena, we have to hand our emails over. But Congress, if they get a subpoena, they don't have to. So if Trump wants to investigate the January 6th committee to find out what happened, you can't see the politicians' emails. If Nancy's texting Paulie P. about investment opportunities, no one's allowed to see it. Congress just tried to write a law that puts them above the law. I thought no one was above the law. Didn't they say that all last year? Congress is also funding a censorship program. They're giving money to the State Department to censor things that they don't like online. We're funding Congress to take away our free speech. And remember, vax mandates. They're back. Congress is funding more vax mandates. For the next pandemic. The section of the bill is called Pandemic Preparedness. Gain of function, the risky experiments that flew out of Wuhan and killed 1 million of us. Congress is trying to fund gain of function research again. I'm sure not here in America. I'm sure we funded it to some other country like Ukraine or China, somewhere in Africa. 12 new biolabs that won't leak. They swear.
All right, Stephen, Jesse is he's spot on there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially, for the first few minutes, basically, it's not just, these weren't just foolish, wasteful spending initiatives that were being included in this bill. As you said earlier, they were evil, absolute evil. They represented a clear and present danger to the citizens of this country. And frankly, it is scandalous that many Republicans were willing to get behind this, whether they read the bill or not. If they didn't, or if they didn't have staff telling them what was in it, that's irresponsible. The fact that so many were willing to rubber stamp this spending bill, it's really, really disconcerting here. And you mentioned Elon and the role of X and all of this. Absolutely. I mean, thank God for X, for Elon, in alerting the public to the contents of the bill. Elon and Vivek, they didn't just save billions of dollars in wasteful spending. Much more importantly, I would argue, they saved Americans from really a new manifestation of Biden-esque Fauci-style tyranny. Because, we've been so close to the edge of losing this country for years now. This could easily have pushed us over, and under a Republican administration. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And let's be clear, it wasn't, we've heard, accusations from the left. Oh, Elon killed the bill. No, he didn't kill the bill. No. He was simply acting as, a whistleblower, almost as a journalist, really, alerting people to the rot that was contained inside this bill. And once we were alerted to the peril that was within it, we, the people, killed the bill. And so that was exhilarating, and everyone really kind of awakened to that this past week. They realized how incredible the effect that people coming together online, we could have a real impact in Washington. It's really been revolutionary what's happened.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's not only was there a change here, but I think there was also people are not, particularly at the end of the year, at Christmas time, people are not sitting around going, what's Congress doing? They're like, oh my gosh, I'm in this line at Macy's and I got to get this Cabbage Patch doll or whatever those things are, whatever the hot item of this Christmas season is, and dating myself there a bit. What people have come to see is not just the details of the bill, which were evil and therefore unjust, but also the process of how this happens. How does Congress behave? Like, what is the process? What are the steps they go through where you wind up paying enormous amounts of money in tax dollars that you shouldn't be paying any in, certainly not federal income tax. It shouldn't exist. And, what do? They're in there all year and, they're supposed to come up with a budget. Okay. Usually the White House puts together a budget of, hey, Congress, because you're the ones controlling the purse strings. I'd like this, and, 20 billion here, 100 billion there, 6 trillion there, 25 bazillion there, give us this, give us that. I need to make animal crackers. And, so Hunter has something to get, munch on when he's coming off his high. So I need 3 trillion for that. When all that's done, then there's a budget that comes out of Congress too. And then what do the congressmen in both chambers try to merge those together and come up with an operating budget, and then they vote on the budget. Well, nobody in Congress seems to be able to do this until the day before they leave for Christmas break. And then a new Congress starts. So there's a thing called a continuing resolution, the CR, which is what this was. An omnibus bill, meaning all the various bills are all put into this one document. And you're going, whatever's in there might be some good, there might be some bad, but you're going to vote all of it yes or no. And it's a really unethical way of doing business. It really is. The Democrats were saying, oh, look, they voted against children's cancer research because they shot down the bill and we're going to let the government go. No, they didn't vote against cancer research for children. They voted against the bill that you folks put that thing in. It's like Hamas. It's like these evil, dastardly SOB commie Democrats and Uniparty, really, hiding among the children to try to get their evil done. That's what they did.
Right.
To pass to hide all of your evil over here next to this one bill about children. They need to protect the children and do cancer research. And they went on and on and on about that. Hakeem Jeffries went out. He must have given 15 press conferences in about 14 minutes, outside in the halls there on the House side of the building of the Capitol. Republicans hate children. And of course, he says that. And then every single lefty on earth, grabs a section of it and posts it up. And then all of a sudden, 20 million people are going, oh, wow, the Republicans voted against cancer research for children. That's a lie. Mike Johnson had the House vote on that particular cancer research center for children, not just cancer research for children in some weird ethereal way, but that actual center that they were funding. Mike Johnson kicked that out, got it voted on, approved it back in March, and sent it over to the Senate. Chuck Schumer is the majority leader in the Senate. He just sat on the bill. So who really hates children here? Well, we already know the party that kills them. But
right, exactly.
Really? You sat on this for, what is that, 9 months? You sat on this for 9 months so you could slip it in here and then say, oh, look how mean they are. oh, they voted against this. You could have voted on that. Chuck Schumer could have called that individual, one line piece of paper bill up whenever he wanted to. He's Senate Majority Leader, and he didn't. So what about the funding that was denied them for 9 months? That particular cancer research center. What about them? Nobody's talking about that. And that's something I want to get your response to, Stephen, that, why are we telling people this? And you're hearing these from, Joe Blow posts on X. Why isn't Mike Johnson standing out in the hallway, the Republican Speaker of the House, saying what, the minority leader here is saying is complete and total bullshit? That's not true.
Exactly.
Why isn't he standing out there? Why is Hakeem Jeffries like all of a sudden like the magic man? Every camera has to gather around him when he's lying through his teeth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one of the great mysteries of the past week. You outlined a number of we have new insights basically because of X and because of Elon's efforts on behalf of the American citizens. We have new insights into the deficiencies. I guess that's being too charitable. Just to the outright corruption of the process. I think an even I don't know, a more important realization has been the fact that many of those people that we send, we see an R by their name on election day, and we check because we think that they're going to represent our best interests in Congress, just because they're Republican. That ain't the case. No. We've seen really that Speaker Johnson, what is going on with this guy? At best, he is an extremely weak leader. He's nothing but a politician, let alone a leader. At worst, he's actively colluding with everything that's opposed to Trump's attempts at reform. Really, everything that stands against the American Republic. It's really, really disconcerting, and I think that realization is a very important takeaway from the events that have transpired over the last few days. There was a lot of talk on X regarding this. One of the folks who made a post about it was Bill Clinton victim, accuser Juanita Broaddrick. She went to X, where else, and she posted this. She said, "We've turned a corner. We will never again be uninformed about what is going on in the legislative branch of our government. They work for us. Thank you, X." Thank you, X, indeed. Thank you, Elon. Thank you, Vivek. Really, again, X is the media now. Why? Because the people in power are not interested in truth.
It's not only not interested in it, they're opposed to it. Our blessed Lord, look, they kill children. Remember all this discussion we sat back in the studio with Obama? And no matter what he would do or say, or you do this, or he won't wear his American pin lapel, and every single time somebody on staff at the studio in Detroit would say, "Oh, blah, 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 I can't believe it." I just would look at them and say, they kill children. He kills children.
Exactly.
There's nothing worse you could do. You kill children. So there's nothing they won't stop at. And, the idea that our Lord said it of Satan, he was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. And looking at the leaders, the religious leaders, who were also in the sort of the early New Testament times of Israel, they were also kind of the political leaders of the Jews. They were the go-between, the Pharisees and the scribe and the Sanhedrin and all that were sort of the go-between, lesser, not equal, but they were, sharing responsibilities for the governing of the people with the procurator at the time, happened to be Pontius Pilate. So they're religious and small p political leaders. And, you don't want the Son of God tearing into you and saying something like, the devil is your father because you do your father's will. Well, he was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. There is no truth in him. That's what these people are. That's what they are.
Absolutely.
And, the sneakiness, the trying to do it just around Christmas and everybody's distracted and wouldn't understand what the hell was going on anyway. Because I don't understand what a continuing resolution is and what's an omnibus bill. I don't know. Just hurry up and go get the fruitcake, dear. I mean, that's when they're doing this.
Right, exactly. Yeah, to your point, if they're willing to rob American babies of their basic right to life, they're going to be perfectly willing to rob the rest of us of our rights to liberty, all of our rights, basically.
Everything. Absolutely. There's nothing that won't be off the table. Stephen, we take a quick little break here. But, when we come back, there's one particular fellow I know that you want to talk about who, is, let's just say, got a little salty with his language. He likes the word that rhymes with duck. And he's a Republican, and he posted it multiple times. We'll be right back.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
All right, everybody, welcome back to our discussion about the omnibus spending bill. Is there a person in America who doesn't work in D.C. who knows what an omnibus spending bill is when everything it reveals about all this evil? If you like what you see here at Souls and Liberty, please click on the provided link and make a donation to us. Nobody else talks about theology, not just, oh, Jesus and my Bible, but theology and theological principles and grace and virtue and supernatural virtues and the natural moral law and all of that stuff, and then weaves it through these discussions of politics. That's what we do here. So if you like what we do, please, feel free to click on the provided link and, put a little something in our Christmas stocking. All right, so Stephen, it seems like most MAGA folks they've been completely caught off guard with just how deep the deep state is. Not just the Democrats and the commies. That's not really the problem. The deep state is the portion of the Republican Party that is also aligned with these commies. Maybe not perfectly ideologically lockstepped, but close enough.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. If there's anything that we've learned over the past week, it's that some Republican lawmakers are every bit as corrupt as their Democratic counterparts. And really, perhaps they're more evil because, they're certainly more dangerous because they go around, they're masquerading as the good guys. We know not to trust Pelosi and her ilk. I certainly before this past week, I thought perhaps I could trust Johnson at least a little bit more. Now, I don't feel that way so much. As you said, it's deeply troubling how deeply entrenched the deep state is, even in the GOP.
They just surrendered the PR war on social media to make Elon look like he's running the government and he's a greedy billionaire SOB. And, Trump is like out of his mind with dementia and doesn't really know what the hell is going on. And it's really President Elon Musk. I mean, Democrat lawmaker after Democrat lawmaker of Democrats tweeted that out, posted it, got up and said it, read all their crap on the floor, called, President Elon Musk and Vice President, Trump. You just completely surrendered the PR war to them. I don't get it. I don't get it. It has never made sense to me. Are they just naive? Are they malicious? I suppose it's a kind of a person by person call, but like what? It's really troubling when you see something on this level of a stage where tens of millions of people are involved in it because of Elon's tweet and a few others he sent out during the day, like, can't vote for this, call up your congressman, blah, blah, blah. But that you would surrender the high ground, which you have on this, Mike Johnson, Republican after Republican, that you would surrender the high ground, just leave it, and let the Democrats rush up to the top of it. It's shocking.
Yeah, it is. And whether his motivation, whether it's just whether he's just politically inept or malicious, either one is absolutely unacceptable at any time, but especially now when we have to forge ahead. We have to push forward with unprecedented strength and unity on the right in order to accomplish the reforms, in order to save the very life of this country over the next 2 years. We have to lay the groundwork for that. And if you're too stupid or wicked, neither one of those is acceptable. Thankfully,
let me ask you: Do you think that there is a certain mindset or personality character trait among conservative / Republican types that they just are incapable of seeing the evil on the other side, reach across the aisle and grab hands with them and form bipartisan ranks on this we can and everything else. I mean, it seems to me, yes, look, some of these Republicans who go along with this are malicious. They're malicious. They're, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, on and on. Then you've got the ones who are just, kind of part of the deep state, and they're greedy. They're just looking for their own benefit. They'll normally vote, correctly, but you never know. It's always a bit of a dice roll. But then you got the other ones who seem like they're just more interested in having the Democrats like them. And that seems to me to be a personality flaw, like a character flaw in them. That's kind of how I think of Mike Johnson.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it could be. I can't imagine that it's just simple naivete, for example. If you've been in Washington for 10 minutes at the congressional level, if whatever innocence you may have had, you lose. Your eyes are opened immediately to how that place works. It is a den of vipers. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe for some of them it is weakness, but again, whether it's weakness, maliciousness, it's all unacceptable.
Right.
We can't, not that there was ever, a time where we could accommodate weakness at the federal level, but this is, again, the most critical juncture in American history. We are fighting for the very existence of the nation. And, American voters, we did what we needed to do. A majority of us voted Trump and his reforms, his agenda in on November 5th. So we're passing the baton now, trusting that our representatives, our senators in Washington are going to start running with it.
There's something profoundly wrong. I don't understand it exactly, but I watched him make the number one priority of his speakership funding Ukraine without any audit at all, at a time when the U.S. border was open. The United States itself was being invaded, and his priority was protecting the borders of a country whose language he doesn't speak, knows nothing about, and it's not America. And it's not the only country that whose interests he's put above ours. And so, I don't want to overstate it. I think it's a kind of treason.
Yeah.
And it's very common in Washington. He's not the only one, but once you see that, then you lose all faith in a man.
All right, amen to that. Again, I'm so glad that Tucker is speaking out. Thousands and thousands of people on X are joining him. Eyes are being opened, and they're starting to question why Johnson is acting this way. Whatever the case, again, whatever his motivation, he needs to be removed as speaker during the floor vote next month. And in 2026, he needs to be primaried, and he needs to be removed by the citizens of Louisiana, by the citizens who live in the 4th district there. He needs to be gotten out of power because, again, whatever the ultimate root of his behavior over the past week, it's unacceptable. We can't have that moving forward. Another case that we saw emerge late last week, just insanity here. Really, of I would say a turncoat is Congressman Dan Crenshaw of Texas, in your neighborhood there.
Yeah,
he had Yeah, he had a very bizarre public meltdown on X over citizen reports that he was leading lawmakers' push to give themselves the $70,000 a year raise. On Wednesday, independent reporter Nick Sorter, he posted this on X. He said, DC sources tell me that Dan Crenshaw of Texas is spearheading the effort to get a pay raise for Congress. Last week, when he was asked about his stock trading, Crenshaw whined that members of Congress haven't had a pay raise since 2009. Crenshaw almost got his way, with the pay increase for members plus benefits being included in today's massive spending boondoggle. Recently, Crenshaw even said, "You have no way to better yourself as a congressman without being able to trade stocks." That's insane. This guy is responsible for loads of the garbage we see being thrown into spending bills, all for his own benefit. Time for eye patch McCain to go. And it was kind of brutal, but I can't argue with that. And so thus exposed, Crenshaw went ballistic. Yeah, he became totally unhinged. He answered on X. He said this, quote, "Yeah, or maybe you're an effing lying piece of shite because I'm not even on the yes list for the whip team. Never have been. But hey, whatever gets you pathetic bottom feeders, you're clickbait. Effing incels." So
that's a United States congressman talking to his constituents.
Absolutely, exactly. Not only
can you imagine what it would be like if they actually felt privileged?
Oh, right, you're right, exactly. And not only are we deplorables, garbage, according to the Democrats, we're pathetic bottom feeders and effing incels, according to Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw. And so with this profanity-filled barrage, really, Crenshaw showed his true character or lack thereof. And again, as Louisiana voters have to do with Johnson, Texas voters have to get rid of him. They've got to primary him and get rid of him when his term ends. But now the question is, will they? The machinations over the past several days have shown how intense the fight is going to be and how sustained it's going to have to be. Gary, you've spoken. You've compared Trump's re-election to D-Day, to the fact that we basically established a beachhead on November 5th. And that's very, very apt because again, once the troops were ashore in Normandy, it was another year before Berlin fell, and 100,000 U.S. soldiers lost their lives, on the way. That's a perfect comparison, I think, because Washington is a deep state fortress, and the diabolical entrenchment there is every bit as strong as it was in Berlin in 1945. And so we have to keep up the fight, keep up the pressure on X and elsewhere, face-to-face, person-to-person. We have to keep pushing forward and holding our political leaders accountable so that they will do the same.
Well put. And I think one of the things as you look at here, just to sort of wrap up this thought, but wrap up the show, actually, we've got a couple minutes left. When you look at past, the new Congress, being seated on January 3rd, I think it is, 2nd or 3rd. And then, Trump being sworn in on the 20th. What is Trump going to do? I mean, there's probably a two-seat margin with the Republicans in the House. 38 of those Republicans voted against the bill that Trump wanted, J.D. Vance wanted, and then Elon posted, hey, vote for this, vote for this. 38 of them voted against it. So, trying to corral these guys, they've got to start playing, really hardball. Trump needs to come out and play hardball. I mean, I think he needs to call these guys in his office and say, understand you do insider trading. You don't vote this way, we're going to turn you over to the law. Cash is in charge of the FBI. Pam Bondi's the AG. If you don't think your ass isn't going to be sitting in jail, if you don't vote the way you're supposed to vote, then, you better think about that twice, because I can guarantee you, I'm not telling them to do it, but I'm going to make it public. And if they want to take it if Cash and Pam want to take this to, grand juries and get indictments against you and issue subpoenas and the whole bit, make your life a living hell for the next 10 years, go ahead. I mean, I think they really need to play hardball. They need to knock the living shite out of these guys. And it's been gone on for so long, and now there is a mandate. And I know the Democrats are like, oh, it's only 1.5 or 1.7 or whatever. It's not the margin that you judge the landslide by. It's the shift since the previous election. And they can't come out and say, well, those numbers in 2020 weren't true. We know they weren't true, but those are the numbers we have to go with. There was a 9 million vote shift from 2020 to 2024 in favor of Donald Trump. Every single county in America got more red. Every single state in America got more red. Even the blue states, their blue commie leads were slashed in half or 60%. So, they're so absorbed in their own lust for power and money and keeping on the gravy train of insider trading and all of it, every last bit of it. They're just going to oppose Trump. They're just going to oppose him. If a reform makes sense and it doesn't touch them, and it's something they can campaign on and do some commercial in 18 months. Hey, look, I voted for this with Trump. They'll go ahead and do it. But if it's going to touch them, or some sort of thing in their district or whatever that's going to, might not secure them re-election, well, they're not going to do it. And I think Trump needs to blow them up. I really do. I think he needs to bring them into his office and blow them up. Bring them into the Oval Office and say, see how nice this room is? Let me show you this. This is a picture of the jail cell in federal prison you're going to be sitting in. Or you're going to spend all of that money you've gotten over all these years from insider trading paying your attorneys to make sure you don't wind up there. I think he needs to do something like that. I mean, obviously, it's different in every case, but he cannot, he and the people around him, and I have confidence that they're not gonna let the moment slip by, but this is now becomes a tactical decision. How do you force these guys to vote in your favor? The Republicans, to vote for a Republican mandate election. How do you get them to vote right? It's going to be quite the interesting 18-ish months, 18 to 20 months here, Stephen. It is. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. He's got to go scorched earth if need be because of what's at stake. That's all there is to it. They need to find money. Heck, ask Elon, ask Bill Ackman, ask any of these guys. Start replace the rhinos campaign pack, pour a few $1 billion into it, and just and start running the commercials now. I mean, why would you wait? Start running the commercials now. Hey, your representative just did this. Hey, he just did this, and bring the heat. I mean, you saw they responded to the heat. I mean, they dropped the first continuing resolution and wouldn't bring it to a vote. So it's like, so they are sensitive to that, but right now, because of Hakeem Jeffries and all of those guys, they think they're playing defense. Well, I don't know that Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Pete Hegseth and all, I don't think they think they're playing defense. But it's going to all unfold pretty darn interesting. Lots of stuff we'll be doing. These people support murder, child murder. Their father is the devil. So anything they do, you have to see through that prism. That's it. Stephen, thank you very much, brother. We'll see you tomorrow. All right. God bless. All right. God bless. And as usual, Stephen Wynn, great insights. There was much to think about, as usual. And before we leave you, please, just want to ask you once again, if you like how we talk about things here, meaning blending the theological and philosophical in with the political and the cultural, because it's all part of the same thing. It's a big giant ball of yarn. If you like how we talk about all of this, please just click on the donate button on the page that you're on watching this and make a nice donation to us. We'd be most grateful for it. Thank you in advance for that. God bless you. I'm Gary Michael Voris, coming to you from Houston, Texas. Ready? Yeehaw! God love you.